I'm 81 years old. For most of my life, I thought God was a shopkeeper. I'd hand him my list and hope for delivery. I asked for my husband Arthur's health, for our son Michael's happiness, for a sign I was heard. The silence I got back felt like a door shut in my face. The brutal truth, I was talking to the wrong person. I was the one who wasn't listening. Let me tell you what happened. It started with Arthur's diagnosis, Parkinson's. I prayed harder than ever. I sat by his bed in that hospital, and my mind was just this frantic list. Please heal him. Please stop this. One afternoon, I just ran out of words. My begging stopped. And in that quiet, I heard his breathing. I saw the light on his face. I wasn't asking for anything. I was just there with him. It was the first time I felt peace in months. It scared me. I tried to go back to my old prayers. It was what I knew. But Arthur kept getting worse. He gave up driving. He gave up his walks. I was still asking God to make him fight. One day I realized I was asking him to fight a war he couldn't win. I was missing the man he was right now because I was begging for the man he used to be. Our son Michael flew in. He's an engineer. He fixes things. Over coffee, he said, "Mom, you can't give up. You have to pray harder." He saw my quiet and thought it was despair. I didn't know how to explain it, so I just listened to him. I heard his fear. That night, with Arthur asleep, I listened to the house. The furnace clicking on, the clock ticking. I felt a presence in that listening, a real one. Arthur's last lesson was a whisper. Near the end, he could barely talk. He gripped my hand and looked out at our old oak tree. He didn't say he loved me. He said, "Listen to the leaves." So I did. I heard the wind. I saw the shadows on his blanket. He was showing me a world that just was. It asked for nothing. He died 3 days later. My first thought wasn't a prayer. It was just, thank you for him. After the funeral, the house was so empty. I tried to ask God for comfort. The words felt fake. So I went to the garden. I just weeded. The sun was warm. A ladybug crawled on my hand. Kids were laughing somewhere. I wasn't asking for anything. I was just there. The loneliness, it softened. It turned into something else. Like the quiet was finally a friend. Then Michael called. He lost his job. He was panicking about his mortgage, his daughter Chloe's tuition. My old self wanted to start praying for a job offer. Instead, I just listened. I heard the shame under his words. I said, That sounds so heavy. He started to cry. He hadn't cried in years. We just sat on the phone in the quiet. A week later, he called back. He'd had a good interview. He said, "Just talking to you helped, Mom." The help was the listening. Chloe stayed with me that summer. She was 17 and angry at the world. One night she yelled about everything. I didn't tell her it would be okay. I didn't ask God to calm her down. I just listened. Finally she said, "You're not telling me I'm wrong." I said, "I'm hearing you." She asked me how I did that. I told her I practiced being quiet. We started sitting on the porch at dusk, not talking, just listening to the crickets. She called it our quiet time. That's when I started listening everywhere. To the squirrels in the park, to the rain, to the ache in my own old bones. The brutal truth hit me. God or the universe or whatever, it had been talking the whole time. In Arthur's breath, in the leaves, in my granddaughter's anger. I'd been too busy handing over my shopping list to hear the reply. Just last week it was raining. My arthritis was bad. The old me would have begged for the pain to stop. The new me? I listened to it. I acknowledged it. And then I listened past it. I heard the rain on the roof. I smelled the wet dirt. I felt grateful just to feel anything at all. It wasn't happiness. It was acceptance. The prayer had ended. The conversation had finally begun. So here I am. My life isn't a request anymore. It's me saying, I see you. I hear you. To the grandkid story. To the neighbor's sadness. To the bird at the feeder. The divine wasn't in getting what I asked for. It's in the paying attention. The silence I was so afraid of, it was never empty. It was full. It was the answer all along. And you know what? That's when the real test came. Because listening is easy in the quiet. It's harder when the world is screaming. My grandson Ben, he's 8. He came to stay a few weeks after that rainy day. Full of energy, talking a mile a minute. One afternoon, he was telling me some long, tangled story about his video game. The old me would have smiled and nodded while thinking about dinner. The new me tried to really listen. I heard the excitement in his voice. I saw his hands flying around. I wasn't just waiting for him to finish. I was right there in that silly story with him. He stopped suddenly and said, "Nana, you're really listening." It wasn't a question. It was a surprise. That got me. A child could tell the difference. Then my neighbor Marjorie lost her dog. Oh, Rusty. She came over, her eyes red. She started talking, and it was all the same things I'd felt when Arthur was sick. The house is too quiet. I keep expecting to see him. The old me would have jumped in with, "He's in a better place," or, "Let me pray for you." Empty words, just to fill the silence. This time, I just sat. I let her talk. I didn't offer anything. I just said, "I miss him too. He was a good friend." She cried harder, but then she hugged me. She said, "Thanks for not trying to fix it." That stuck with me. I'd spent my life trying to fix things with prayer, and all people needed was for me to not fix it, just to hear it. But the brutal part, listening means hearing the ugly stuff too. The news on the TV, another shooting, another war. I used to just shut it off and ask God for peace. Now, I made myself listen to the reporter's voice for a minute. I felt the sick feeling in my stomach. I didn't ask for it to go away. I just acknowledged it. This is happening. This is terrible. It felt more honest than any prayer I'd ever said about it. My body started talking louder too. The arthritis wasn't just an ache to beg away. It was a signal. I started listening to what it needed. To slow down, to rest, to sit in the sun. I'd get tired faster. Instead of asking for more energy, I'd just take a nap. I started to hear my own thoughts differently. The worried ones, the sad ones about Arthur. I didn't push them away with a prayer. I'd let them come. I'd think, "Oh, there's that missing him feeling." And somehow, just hearing it in my own head made it softer. Then I had a fall. Just a stupid trip on the porch step. Landed hard on my hip. Lying there, the pain was a bright white siren. The old Eleanor would have been screaming for help from God and everyone else. This time, before the panic could even start, I heard my own voice in my head. It was calm. It said, "Okay, you're on the ground. It hurts. What next?" I listened. I heard a car driving past. I heard my own breathing, ragged but steady. I pushed myself up slowly. It was a different kind of miracle. Not that I didn't get hurt, but that I didn't get scared. I listened my way through it. That's when I knew this wasn't just a nice idea anymore. It was how I live now. It was how I survive. That's when I knew this wasn't just a nice idea anymore. It was how I live now. And then the hospital called about Michael. A car accident. He was in surgery. I sat in the same waiting room where I'd sat with Arthur. My daughter-in-law, Sarah, was sobbing. Chloe was just staring at the wall. The old prayers rushed back, a tidal wave of them. "Please, not my son. Please, God, no." I could feel the words forming. That desperate bargain. I closed my eyes. The panic was a scream inside my head, but underneath it, I heard something else. The hum of the fluorescent lights, the squeak of a nurse's shoes, my own heartbeat. I made myself listen to that instead of the screaming. I didn't ask for anything. I just held Sarah's hand and listened to the terrible silence of waiting. The surgeon came out. Michael had a broken leg, 3 broken ribs, but he was going to be okay. The relief was so big, I almost got sick. Sarah cried and said, "Thank God." And I just nodded. But later, sitting by his bed while he slept, doped up on pain meds, I felt hollow. I looked at my boy, all busted up, and I realized something terrible. I hadn't prayed for him. In that worst moment, I had listened instead. And he was okay. But what if he hadn't been? The question ate at me. Was my listening just a coward's way out? Was I failing him all over again? I went home exhausted. The house was dark. I made tea and sat at the kitchen table, Arthur's empty chair across from me, and I broke. I put my head in my hands and I cried. I cried for Arthur, for Michael's pain, for all the years I'd spent talking to the ceiling. I cried because I was so tired of being brave and quiet. I wanted my old God back, the one you could yell at, the one you could blame. This listening, it left me nowhere to put the anger. The anger just had to sit there with me. I must have fallen asleep at the table. I woke up with a stiff neck, the dawn light coming in, and I knew what I had to do. I had to test it, really test it. I drove to the cemetery. I stood at Arthur's grave. The grass was still patchy. I said his name out loud, and then I waited. I didn't ask him to give me a sign. I didn't ask God to let me feel his presence. I just stood there. I listened. I heard a dog barking far away. I heard the wind in the big oak over by the fence. I felt the cold seeping through my shoes. And I felt nothing. No warmth, no sense of him. Just the empty, flat feeling of a grave. It was the hardest silence yet. It felt like the truth. He was gone. I was just an old woman, standing in the cold, talking to dirt. I got back in the car. I felt shattered. I'd traded my comforting illusions for this, for the sound of traffic and the ache in my knees. I drove to the park, our park. I sat on our bench, and I finally said it to the empty air. I'm angry. I'm so angry you left me here. I wasn't talking to God. I was talking to Arthur. And I listened for an answer. None came. Just kids on the playground. Then a cardinal landed on the path right in front of me, bright red. It looked at me, cocked its head, and flew off. And it wasn't a sign. It was just a bird. But I had been listening, and I had seen it. The brutal truth washed over me, cold and clean. This was it. This raw, unedited world. No special messages, no hands reaching down, just life happening. Painful, ordinary, and sometimes, for a second, with a red bird in it. The cost of the listening was giving up the hope of anything more. That was the deepest cut. But in that cut, I finally felt honest. I was done bargaining. I was just here. I was done bargaining. I was just here. And here's what I learned, sitting on that park bench with the ghost of my husband and the memory of a red bird. I was wrong about what love required. I thought loving Arthur meant fighting for him, begging God for more time. Real love was sitting in the chair and listening to him breathe. I thought loving Michael meant fixing his problems with my prayers. Real love was listening to him cry on the phone and not interrupting with a solution. I thought faith was about getting answers. It's not. It's about showing up for the questions and being brave enough to hear the silence that follows. The brutal truth is that for 81 years, I thought God was a vending machine. You put your prayer in, you shake it, you hope your blessing drops down. But God, or life, or whatever you want to call this whole messy, beautiful thing, it's not a machine. It's a conversation. And I'd been talking over it my whole life. So here's my advice, especially if you're my age. Don't perform. Just be there. When your friend tells you about her diagnosis, don't reach for the "I'll pray for you." Just hold a hand and say, "This is awful. I'm right here." When your grandkid is telling you a story that makes no sense, don't just nod and think about your grocery list. Listen to the sound of their voice. Watch their hands move. That's the prayer. When you wake up with an ache, don't immediately beg for it to go away. Listen to it first. What's it telling you? To slow down? To rest? The body speaks too. And for God's sake, stop giving heaven a to-do list. Put the list down. Your job isn't to manage the universe. Your job is to witness it. To say, I see that leaf. I hear that bird. I am here with you in your pain. That's the work. It's the only work that matters. And you still have time. Maybe not decades. Maybe not even years. But you have now. This hour. This breath. That's enough. You don't need a dramatic sign. You just need to stop talking. The hope isn't in a miracle around the corner. The hope is in the texture of this moment, exactly as it is. Even the hard ones, especially the hard ones. The hope is in discovering that you are not alone in the quiet. You are finally present enough to meet everything that's always been there. The love, the memory, the simple, stunning fact of being alive to feel the sun or the rain. That's the gift. It was always the gift. I just had my hands too full of requests to receive it. If this quiet truth resonates with you, if you're tired of talking to the ceiling, then do something simple. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. It's not for me. It's so you don't miss the next story that might remind you to put your own list down. There are so many of us learning this later in life. We need to hear each other. If this felt true, hit the like button. It's a quiet way of saying, I hear you too. And in the comments, I'd love to know, what's one thing you heard when you stopped asking and just listened? Was it a sound, a feeling, a memory? Share it. Let's build a chorus of listeners. And if you know someone, a parent, a friend, a spouse, who is exhausted from begging the sky, share this with them. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do is offer someone permission to be quiet. Finally, if you have a story of your own about listening, about loss, about a late in life lesson, there's a link below to submit it. Your story matters. Your listening matters. It's how we find each other in the silence. Thank you for listening to mine. Now, go listen to your life. It's speaking.